3, 2, 1. Give me a second. I'll play one commercial before we go. Three, two, one.
If we actually enjoyed our New Year's resolutions, we'd all have six packs, money in our saving accounts, and we'd know how to play the piano. I have to tell you about the one resolution I actually enjoy. It's Built Bar. It's delicious. Oh, yeah, it's healthy too. Built Bar is healthier than your favorite protein bar. They're low-cal, low sugar, high protein, high fiber, great for the keto diet. Lose or maintain weight while indulging. And with only 4 net carbs and 150 calories, there's no guilt. Visit BuiltBar.com.
You're listening to CBS Sports Radio. We are all sports 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Strong opinions and your phone calls. Expect it here. CBS Sports Radio.
You can make a hit in a ball game. You can make a hit with me.
Good morning. Welcome to the Payoff Pitch with Sean O'Toole and Stephen Troche. Stephen is not with us this morning. He will get with us here in the next few weeks. He's got a lot of things going on, a lot of balls in the air. So we're going to try to mind the camp. Every Saturday morning we'll be here 10 a.m. Eastern, and then obviously you'll be able to watch it whenever the hell you want. That's the beauty about YouTube, right, Sean? Sean, how are you, sir?
I am fantastic. The Braves of the Nakahoma had me into the rum a little early, but we'll save that for Wednesday. and hoping for a better day today, but some good action out there.
Did you bring us
excited to talk?
Juju? I mean, you're literally Braves out what I see, and we got the crap kicked out of us last
night. We'll talk about it more on Wednesday, but I got a lot of traffic on that tweet that said, okay, Drew Smiley is no longer the worst contract we gave out in the off season. What's going on?
Programming note for people who are expecting a Brave show this morning. I'm going to wait to start doing those Brave shorts for just the weekdays. I did the math, long story short. I can't do them on Saturdays with all the other stuff we got going on. And I didn't feel like a pounding by the Phillies was the first show I should do anyway. So it'll be Monday through Friday. I misspoke on the weekday morning Armchair Quarterbacks live show. Okay, for those of y'all who have never joined us before, Sean and I do Armchair Quarterbacks live weekday mornings. Been doing that for quite some time. It is on CBS Sports affiliates, and then of course we have the YouTube live. This is the channel. But this show is specifically going to be not only fantasy baseball, but we're going to get the analytics in. We're not just going to say, we think Giancarlo Stanton can hit the ball real good. We're going to get into why you want to keep him, why you would want to trade him, why you would want to trade for him, et cetera, and then, of course, pickups. So, Sean, without further ado, I will let you go ahead and lead the charge. Where are we starting off this morning? I'm going to try to share all this info, all of our feeds to our media pages as you begin the show.
Okay, so there are 4 players that I kind of had pulled some friends, some people that play a lot of fantasy baseball, play a lot of DFS, and I basically come up with 4 names. We're going to call this segment buy or sell. These are guys that I think you should either buy, if I think you should, maybe try and swing a trade for them in your independent fantasy leagues, or guys that you should put a lot of action on now, or sell, guys whose early results this season are unlikely to continue. So I got 4 names. We're going to start. There's 2 Braves on the list, but we're going to bookend the Braves. It's not a coincidence that there's Braves on the list. I have a lot of Braves friends, so I'm gonna expand the survey next time so we get some other names. But we'll start with this. So Huascar Ynoa is the first name that comes up. He's obviously the darling of the Braves this year. His ads in fantasy baseball, whether you're looking at Yahoo, ESPN, CBS Sports, whatever, are up. He's somewhere in the 70% range in most leagues, which is pretty insane, or higher for a guy that was at best penciled in as the 5th starter when the season began. There's starting to be a little bit of a trend away from him based on some numbers, and I'm going to give you those numbers in just a second. But here are his next 3 starts. His next 3 starts are at the Milwaukee Brewers, who are 7th in all of Major League Baseball in runs scored. He's at home against the Pittsburgh Pirates. We don't need to belabor that point. And then his next start is his third start from now, and this is after Sunday night against the Phillies, because he's going to start 2 nights from tonight, is at the New York Mets, who, despite all the chatter last night on social media about Lindor hitting a home run, are actually 5th in the league in runs scored and are next to last in batting average behind only the Detroit Tigers. So none of that's good stuff. Here are some positive numbers for him. If he's someone you want to buy, if he's someone you're considering keeping, and you're not really sure if this hot streak is going to continue. He's currently got a 187 batting average against all of his pitches. And Noah's basically a 2-pitch guy. He's fastball, slider. He lives in the zone a lot with his fastball, especially up in the zone. I think that's based on how they've educated him to pitch to major league pitchers. But a 187 batting average against is pretty insane and kind of unsustainable. The modern day record for batting average against in a season, most of them are owned by either Jacob deGrom or Max Scherzer, and are somewhere in the low 200s or the high 190s. I don't think Anoa's in that range. So if you want to take that as a strike against, that would be something to take a strike against. The one thing that's very notable in his career, his average slugging percentage against in 2019, batter slugged 7.
Let me know if you can't see me. I didn't realize my camera wasn't on.
I'm not looking at my phone. I'm looking at my stats. So I'm sorry, I didn't catch it.
Whole time, so I do apologize for the the Wizard of Oz voice coming from the great yonder. Okay, go ahead.
So last year in 21 innings pitched, batter slugged 422 off of him, which is very respectable. This year, batters are only slugging 366 off him. It's notable that in 2019 and in 2018, some of his advanced stats in slugging are that people were getting hard hit rate and exit velocity on him. His average hard hit rate, even this year, is 50.6%. Now, that just means the percentage of balls off the bat that are 95 miles an hour or harder. Some of that velocity is obviously supplied by the pitcher, but the harder the ball comes off the bat, the more likely it is that it catches the barrel or the sweet spot of the bat, not the end of the bat or the fist. So there's some data that indicates that maybe he's getting a little bit lucky. His line drive percentage is 23.5%, which is the lowest of his whole career and is way below the major league average. The major league average line drive rate is about 37%. And those are just balls without launch angle.
What you're saying is you would sell high, because watching him, I think he's somewhat the real deal. Do I think he's going to be dominant every start? Probably not. Everyone goes through bumps and bruises. But as opposed to diving into the analytics, I'm always more known for for the eye test. I always say you have to watch the game, and I watch him pitch, and I think he's sustainable because when he lives up in the zone, what he has been doing, and he has been working on a third pitch, kind of a change-up type pitch.
Yep, I've seen it.
What he has been doing now, I will say this: I don't know if the ERA and WHIP is going to continue to sustain, but I do think the strikeout rate will be decent, and he will get the wins because this Atlanta offense is going to wake up and score. So I'm very bullish on Enoa, but would I trade a known commodity for him? No, I wouldn't go nuts and trade one of your top tier pitchers for him.
Right.
But if you can catch him in a bad start, that might be when you want to pounce and make for the trade, because I doubt that he's available in many leagues at this point, right?
No, he's not. He's available in almost no leagues unless it's a very, very large league, a very small league with some kind of roster capping or something like a six-man roster. So just to cap up because we've got other things to get to. It depends. Everything is contextual, right? If someone is offering you Yelich, who's on the IL, and a closer, and maybe a young prospect in a dynasty league, I would consider it, because I think
I would do it in a heartbeat, because Yelich.
Do it in a heartbeat, right?
I think Yelich is still. I know we're planning on getting to him, but I think Yelich still has many more moons left in him. I don't think this is going to be some fall off like we saw with Ryan Braun.
Right. I think Anoa is performing as a number 2 starter when Braves fans thought he was going to be a number 5 starter. I think his real value is somewhere between the 3 and the 4. I think he's much better than people have projected, but I don't think this level of production is likely to continue for 30 starts or 150 innings. So we'll move off of him and go to our next name, which is a very popular one, Vladito. Vladimir Guerrero Jr. So for anybody who hasn't been paying attention, if you don't know who this guy is, I don't think you're watching this program. But Vlad is absolutely raking this year. Is just hitting the cover off the ball in every sense of the word. He's got a BABIP of 351, an isolated power of 255. He is just absolutely killing pitching at all fields in all situations. For some old school numbers, his on base is 321. He's got 7 home runs and 22 runs batted in. He's slugging 575. His OPS plus is 193. He's just killing the ball. The thing that I want to be really quick about is a lot of people asked, is this likely to sustain itself? I'm going to say yes, and I'm going to just rely on 2 stats as to why. His hard hit rate's pretty consistent. He's at 51.2. His career average is 47, so he's within range of that. His line drive percentage is pretty consistent with his career average. The big thing that has changed, even though his strikeout rate isn't down, it's actually up. He's striking out 16.5% of his at-bats as opposed to 15% last year. His walk rate is incredibly improved. He's walking twice as much as he has in any of his previous 2 seasons. His previous best was 9% in 2019. He only walked 8% of the time last year. This year, he's walking in 18.1% of his at-bats, which just shows a willingness to not fall for breaking stuff off the zone, change ups low and in, and wait for pitches to hit the zone or take ball 4 and take your base because there's other batters in that lineup. So I think his improvement is all in his head, and it's going to continue.
Okay, here's the thing that I would say for him and a lot of Toronto Blue Jays players. If they are going to continue to play in Dunedin as their home field, which it looks like they will for
this year.
For this year, possibly. There has been talk of possibly going up north to Buffalo or even maybe Toronto by the end of the year. But if they're going to be in Dunedin, Florida, that is a bandbox, and that is why he is raking, because they're essentially playing in a little league field. If you go and you look at it, it is not a very big field at all. The ball carries, the wind whips through there, and I think that has a lot to do with it. If they make some announcement that they're going to Toronto and you have other needs on your team, I would be in favor of selling high, because I don't know if his ceiling's ever going to be as high as it will be when it warms up in Florida. It's still a little cool here. When it warms up in Florida and that wind's blowing out, I mean, your over under in Blue Jay home games is going to be like 13.5, and most people won't even take it. So that would be the one thing that I would say about Vlad. Very good, very young, is in a very good position where he's playing, and he's kept the weight off. And what am I concerned about him long term? If you're in a dynasty league, I think he's just a fat kid at heart. And I really think he's going to go full Prince Fielder before it's all said and done.
He very much could. So next on the list is a popular name. This is the guy I own in a couple of leagues, and he's starting to get a lot of traction in trades because his performance is just through the roof. And that's the closer of the very surprising and best record in baseball, Boston Red Sox, Mr. Matt Barnes. So Matt Barnes coming into today, just to give you some basic stats on what his numbers are. He's currently 1-0. He has a 2.12 ERA, 17 innings pitched. He's 7 for 7 in save chances. He hasn't blown a single save. He's been in 16 games, but some of those he's been in just to kind of clean up or just to get some extra work in. His strikeout to walk ratio is 9.67. He's striking out 15.4 batters per 9 innings and only walking 1.6 per 9 innings. He is absolutely ripping through everybody he faces. So the standard question for anybody, especially a guy like this who's been in the league for a while, he's not a spring chicken. He's 31 years old. He's been with Boston his entire career, mostly as a middle reliever, but this is his first year as a closer. Is, do you sell high on this guy? Do you try and sell him for parts? Do you try and sell him for other things that you need? So let me give you just.
So my gut feeling is Boston's going to be in it for the entire season. But if you can look, we've seen Matt Barnes fall off from time to time. If you can live without him in your lineup, meaning you have other relievers, et cetera, maybe you've picked up an Alex Reyes along the way, whatever. Right. Sean, right now he is on my sell list because they have not played the New York Yankees one time. No. And they feasted on him last year. And when he starts playing against them, if that continues, you're not going to be able to sell him because we're like, dude, he just gave up 4 runs to the Yankees. And that's my gut feeling. What say you?
Yeah, I'm actually gonna buy or hold on him for now, and I'm gonna give some numbers as to why. So his batting average on balls in play is the lowest it's ever been in his career. It's 192. Now that would suggest some regression to the mean. However, I also think the Boston Red Sox defense, especially on the infield, is as good as it's been in years. They've put a really good defensive infield together. So the batting average on balls in play should be low when you have a good defense. Batters are hitting 311 off him, which is, for his career, was his previous high. They're only hitting 107 off of him this year. The one thing that really jumps out to me, I'll give 3 stats really quick. His strikeout rate is 49.2%, which is way beyond anything he's ever done in his career. His previous high was 38%. His walk rate is only 5%. He's only walking 5% of batters he's faced. He's never ever had anything under 10. 2017, he was 9.8, but he's always lived around 10%. He's in the zone a lot. He's in the zone 64% of the time. So 64% of his pitches are called for strikes. Now, we don't need to have a robot on conversation, but the league average is 48%. So as long as he's pounding the zone with a really hard fastball and can live off his sinker and slider, I still trust him for now. But you're right. The jury's a little bit out. We need to see him against the Yankees and against some better lineups. He's feasted on lesser competition so far. But the metrics suggest that the Red Sox are telling him just to pitch in the zone and to trust his stuff and not to nibble, which has been his problem in the past. So if he continues doing that, I think he can be successful. But as we said with the previous 2 guys, it's very contextual. If you can get a haul for him, don't hesitate to get it, because saves are just one of the most volatile metrics in all of baseball, and you can get them from a lot of different places.
Okay, let's move on to Freddie Freeman.
Ooh, well, there's
no way in hell you're selling this guy. I'm sorry. MVP,
No.
Future Hall of Famer. This one, if anyone's considering selling Freddie Freeman, you're an idiot. And if someone's willing to sell him and you don't buy him, you're an idiot.
right.
He's not going slumps often, and when he does, you better pounce, because if there's someone in your league that dumb, first of all, lock them up long term and make them sign a 10-year deal to stay in your fantasy leagues at a minimal salary pay-in or buy-in. The guy's going to get back to raking. His biggest problem, Sean, that I've said for his entire career, and I'll say it once again, as big as a Freddie Freeman and Braves fan as I am, he tries to hunt, ambush early pitches too often, and that is not something that a person who is supposed to be leading an offense should be doing. You should be working the count. He doesn't. He's always been an impatient. He tries to get your fastball. He tries to get the first fastball in the zone and whack at it. He doesn't care. And so that's the danger, and that's a much different conversation about the Braves in general. But remember, he bats right after Acuna. So there are times where the starting pitcher is got 2 outs in the first inning. He's thrown 2 damn pitches because both of them are in there ambushing. So I think that's why you're going to have to live with this. But if you've got another take, I'm all ears. But I just don't think there's any way in hell you sell them.
No, I'm gonna make a compelling argument that you don't sell him based on some analytics. The one thing I would say as a Braves fan is they've been shifting him for over 2 seasons now. I don't know what's stopping him from going the other way. He'll run into one every once in a while.
From time to time.
He does from time to time, but if he would do it more, if he would just do it more, they would stop shifting him, and I think he would see some better results.
I'll tell you one reason why he's a free agent at the end of the year. He's trying to knock it over the yard so he can go, I hit 30, I hit 40. What are you talking about?
Yep. So current numbers, and these are just standard batting numbers. He's currently batting 195 with a 326 on base and an OPS of 733. Those would all be career lows for a full season. I don't think that there's no scenario where this is going to continue. The 2 things that really jump out to me when I dug into his advanced numbers, his batting average on balls in play is currently 181. Now, the same thing I said about Barnes flips when you're talking about it with a hitter for the uninitiated. That just means he's been very unlucky on balls in play. He's had balls that have been caught that would have otherwise been hits, or balls that have been snagged, or balls that have gone foul that would have otherwise fallen in. So if that just regresses to the mean, his career average for BABIP is 338. So you can add 100 points to his batting average just off of luck. He's been very unlucky. There's going to be some regression to the mean. His line drive rate is shockingly very low. Actually, the lowest it's been since 2011 and 2012. His line drive rate is currently 21.1%. In the last 4 years, and I'm just going to take the last 4 years, his average of the last 4 years is about 34%, which means hard hit balls over 95 miles an hour that don't have a launch angle over 10 degrees. So he's not hitting balls very hard. He's not barreling them. When he does get them, they're going out of the park. I think if you have him, and I have him in most of my leagues, you're just holding, right? It's going to turn around. This is an MVP, a 6-time All-Star, a 3-time top 5 MVP finalist. This is not going to continue. The fact that it's a contract year and he's performing bad is a little bit concerning. You wonder, outside analytics, if that's maybe causing some of these results and it's in his head. But again, if you're selling Freddie Freeman,
I also think it's tied into
you're insane.
It's tied into the fact that his team is not playing well, pitching well. And so
Right.
I think there's a lot of pressure on the offense thinking they got to get things going. And everybody knows that when you start to stress and you start to – the worst thing an athlete can do in any sport is try hard. And I know that sounds stupid.
Right.
It's one thing
No,
to
it's
work hard,
100% true.
but you don't want to try hard. You want to just let the game come to you. You want to work hard. You don't want to try hard, because if you try hard, you start getting the sawdust off the bat, and you start going, I gotta get a hit. It's the same thing that's happening with Francisco Lindor right now in New York, because he's not used to all the limelight, and he's having a terrible year. Now he's coming up with stories about raccoons and rats and everything else, trying to get everyone off his back, and no one's buying his stories. But it's like, all right, Smollett. What are you talking about? So, and to your point, I think one of
you called him Smollett. Get out of here. Stop it.
Well, I'm very entrenched into the New York Twitter. No one's buying his story about this raccoon rat thing. But anyways, the thing that I see, and you take this with Freddie Freeman along with Lindor, 2 different ways. When you're talking about the shift, and I'm against the shift, and we'll get into that down the road, but if Freddie Freeman would knock some over the third base, get him a couple of doubles going, everything else comes to him, right? The same thing with the Lindor. If you see him start using the entire part of the field, even if he's not getting the results, that means good things are coming. And the thing with Lindor, I think that kid needs to start thinking about is learning the drop bunt. So he's got speed.
There's a lot to that. I resisted the urge in a couple leagues to trade Dansby Swanson when offered, because he's taking the ball to right center. And when guys do that, usually good results come after that. They start to rope more down.
Time for people who don't watch him, that's usually the only time that Dansby Swanson is hitting well. If Dansby Swanson is pulling the ball on the regular, he's about to go into a slump. Yeah, he's a guy that needs to hit right back up the middle. So yeah.
Okay. So next segment, and we're going to have some transitions, I assume, along the way. But next segment, I'm calling Pawn Shop. This was I came up with this name. So these are players that you might be able to trade for that are currently on the injured list, or you might be considering trading because you're frustrated they're on the injured list. You're already 0-3 in a standings league, and you're considering selling dudes off. So the first one, we already kind of mentioned him earlier on, is Christian Yelich. Christian Yelich, for anybody who's uninitiated, is a 2-time top 2 MVP and the 2018 National League Most Valuable Player. When he went out, was hitting 353 with a 382 slugging and an 846 OPS, but he's only played in 10 games this year, played in 58 last year. He's got a history of kind of some nagging back troubles, and this is a back injury. He missed 32 games with it in 2019. He missed almost 30 games with it in 2015 when he was in Miami. I'm going to say buy. I would buy Yelich all day, every day. What say you?
With Yelich, a lot would have to do with what someone's offering me, because I believe a healthy Yelich and a Yelich that is by the time we get to midseason, I don't know if we'll get him back to the form that he was a few years ago, where he looked like he could be the best hitter in Major League Baseball, but he's a far cry from what he's doing right now. And so I would be buying Yelich as long as I didn't have to give up. In other words, I'm not giving up Acuna to get Yelich. Okay. I'm not giving up one of the top tiers. But at the beginning of the baseball season, I believe Yelich, wasn't he? Do you remember where exactly he was ranked at the very beginning of the season? As far as fantasy goes? Okay.
I don't.
I'm going to pull it up here in a second. But I guess my point is he was being projected to be one of the top picks in the draft. We're talking about first round, second round type player.
Sure.
If you trade a guy like that, you better get a decent return. You better not just be trading him just to get a guy who's on a hot streak, right? So I'm not trading Yelich for Whit Merrifield, okay? Because sure. I'm like, oh man, Whit Merrifield, he's solid. He is consistent. He's a good player. But Yelich, when he gets on a roll, Sean, he can carry your team sometimes. So I have a hard time selling him. What I buy, I would pounce. Anyone who's willing to give him up, I am all over it.
Agreed, 100%. Second name on the list is Danielson Lumet. I'll be really quick with some advanced stats on him. Lumet was fourth in Cy Young voting last year with an ERA plus of 196. For the uninitiated, ERA plus is a factor of 100 multiplied by league ERA divided by standard ERA, which is basically ERA adjusted to the player's ballpark. So it's meant to be fair based on whether you're in a hitter-friendly park or a pitcher-friendly park. This year, he's not had a lot of action. He's only pitched 2 games. He's only got 4 innings pitched. And the results have been fairly mixed, 4 strikeouts to walks, but arm troubles, and his hard hit rate is 50% this season, which is much higher than it's been the last 2 years. Anytime I hear the word forearm tightness, I'm out. I would sell Lumet 100 times out of 100. And if you get burned by it, you get burned by it.
His entire career, he has been on the IL. If you drafted him, good luck. You try to send a trade to me, you better be sending me him for someone that I streamed that week, because I'm not giving you a cornerstone. I just don't think the guy can stay healthy. He's one of those burn me players.
Right. Got to get burned by him.
I got to get burned by him before I ever think about. And so I always go back to fantasy football with this, and I call it the Fred Taylor rule. Fred Taylor, his entire career, that guy had the most talent on the field on most games. He was the most talented player on the field. But the dude could never stay healthy. And he was constantly battling injury. He was constantly questionable. And finally, I got to the point where he was on one of my teams. I was like, that dude's going to have to burn me like twice for me to put him in my starting lineup, because the moment you put him in your starting lineup, and this is football, baseball is a little different, but he would get injured and you would have him for the rest of the game. Same thing with Lumet. If you have him, I don't expect him to throw more than about somewhere between 15 to 20 starts the entire season if I drafted Danielson Lumet.
I couldn't agree more. Last name in the pawn shop
By
today,
the way, I found it on Yelich, by the way. So his previous value, this is how far he's fallen. His previous value on daily fantasy was $31. I mean, on yearly fantasy was $31 in auction leagues, right? That's what he was averaging. Of course, they always say that, and the guys go for about $5 more. Current standings, he is at $21 for leagues that are drafting right now.
That's a big drop.
So he's dropped a third of his. So this is a perfect time to pounce on Yelich. All right. Okay. Sorry. Go ahead.
Last name in the pawn shop, and this is for our buddy Trosh, and for the guy that's a Florida Panthers fan. I assume he's a Marlins fan, so I just kind of pulled this one out of a hat. Jazz Chisholm, who's currently on the IL. I've seen some transactions trending around this guy. People that have sold him pretty high because he really came out of the gates hot with a 290 batting average, an OPS of 926, an OPS plus of 154, 7 stolen bases. And this is a well-regarded prospect, a very young guy. And his injury is not serious. It's a hamstring injury, so he'll be back within, a week or so. But do you sell high on him or do you keep him? I'm keeping this guy. His numbers all line up with what he did in the minors. I think he's a very good Like if you took D Gordon, what D Gordon was, and you put it in a lab and make the 2.0 version of D Gordon, it's D Gordon with some power. He's going to steal bases. He's going to get you about 15 to 20 homers. I don't think he's ever going to be Giancarlo Stanton. But this is a guy I would not sell. And conversely, if someone in your league is trying to sell this guy, I would buy.
Yeah, to me, it would really come down to what you need, because if you need stolen bases, obviously you don't want to get rid of the guy. But if you have a need for, a stronger OPS, stronger, sluggo, what have you, Chisholm is not, I know he's got 4 home runs. That's not going to continue, y'all.
No,
if you watch
he's not a 30 home run hitter. He's not.
No,
he's really,
Jazz
really
Chisholm is D Gordon 2.0. Very fast, very athletic. Love him on the base pass. He's an electric player to watch. I love watching him. But I think if it were me and I needed other things, I think I would actually sell high on Jazz Chisholm, because I don't think he's sustainable for the entire season. And you have to look at who they have played so far. The Marlins have played a fairly easy schedule. It's only going to get more difficult, which means that him getting on base, the key to him is always going to be if he can get on base. He has 4 home runs. He'll be lucky if he breaks 10 for the entire year.
Yep, absolutely. So that's it for Pawn Shop. Last segment, and then we're going to do some daily fantasy for everybody, because I know we're trying to keep this nice and tight. I'm calling this segment for now Dodgeball, just because I think that's a hilarious name. These are guys that you need to buy. These are pump and dump guys, but guys who have a lot of value. They're going to be available in your leagues, in most of your leagues. So I'm not going to put out, I'm not going to come on here and say, go pick up DJ LeMahieu. You're not getting him. These are guys that you might need at positions of value. So I'm going to give 3 names. I'll let Mac react to him and see if he has anybody else. I'm going to throw some stats in here as well.
By the way,
first one,
morning Doge coin, 72 cents.
I don't know what that means. I'm not into cryptos.
It means at one point when I first bought this, it was worth 1/3 of a penny.
Oh, gotcha.
So for every share that you got is worth 1/3 of a penny. It is now worth
72 cents.
72 cents. So do the math.
It's the high value. It's volatile too. It does these a lot from what I know. But
and
I
do believe it is going to climb tonight. Why? Elon Musk hosts Saturday Night Live. And he is one of the, so if anyone wants to pump and dump, I'm just putting this out there. This is the day to do it, because there's a very good chance that thing is going to hit $1. And then I think it's going to go down. The thing that people understand about cryptocurrency, a lot of it has value. Dogecoin has 0 value. It was made as a joke. So just realize when you do it, you're kind of playing a lottery. All right. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, it's okay. 3 names I'm going to give you for Dodgeball. The first one is Josh Rojas, who's currently starting at second base. He's a middle infielder for the Arizona Diamondbacks. He's playing every day right now because Ketel Marte and Eduardo Escobar are still fighting off injuries. Marte's still not back off the injured list. And the starting shortstop, the Diamondbacks were counting on Nick Ahmed, couldn't hit his way out of a wet paper sack right now if you gave him a chainsaw. So Rojas's advanced numbers, he's got an 844 OPS and an OPS plus of 129. His batted ball statistics are pretty consistent with his career averages. His line drive rates in the 30s, which is not remarkable. His hard hit rate's about 45, which is not remarkable. And his exit velo's sitting right around 90, not remarkable. I don't know that he's going to continue to hit close to 260. He might be more of a 230 hitter. But if he's going to play every day and you have a need in middle infield, he's a guy who can give you a lot. In that vein, Brandon Crawford, the shortstop for the San Francisco Giants, that I swear this guy was on the World Championship team in 1989 when they played the Oakland A's. I swear to God, he's been there forever. But he's actually got 6 stolen bases and 6 home runs. The Giants have been, we've talked about it on the Wednesday show, kind of one of the nicest surprises in baseball so far. And he's going to continue to get, 4 at-bats every day. Gabe Kepler is a very platoon-heavy manager, and he hasn't platooned Crawford one bit. He's played every game they have.
Crawford, because for people who don't watch West Coast baseball, especially, don't pay attention to defense because you're into fantasy.
Lockdown defense.
Brandon Crawford is one of the best shortstops in baseball, and the Giants do not employ the shift as much as other teams because of that. So that's why he's going to play. But I'm not jumping at a guy who's hitting 2 238 this year. I'm just not jumping at that. I don't know. I mean, his OPS is barely over 800. His slugging is 488. What is it about him that you are? Is it just because he's a Giant and you've been watching Giant games, or I don't get it.
No, it's
He's only got
basically
14 RBIs and he's played in 27 games.
It's basically because they're letting him steal bases again. That's part of his value, is if you're hunting for stolen bases, and he's still got some sock. He's going to hit some balls out of the park, especially in that ballpark. I just think if you're desperate up the middle, if you've had a rash of injuries, and again, that's why I'm calling it Doge ball. This isn't go grab guys just because they're there. This is if you're desperate, if you've got a shortstop who's underperformed, or you've got just a rash of injuries on your roster. Here's the guy you would want to go pick up. His next 30 days is also very favorable on his schedule. Some good hitters ballparks in there, some trips to Colorado, stuff like that. Last one.
But real quick, a guy who's been in the league since 2011 has only have 35 total stolen bases, only 3 this year. Why would you pick him up for a stolen base category? It doesn't make sense.
No, I'm just saying pick him up for his value across all categories. I think he's likely to hit better, especially as they get into some more hitters ballparks, play some more games at Colorado. And really, it's just the availability. The best ability is availability. He's going to be in the lineup every day. And I don't think that team is bad. I think he's going to continue to get opportunities to hit. Is he going to hit 300 and drive out 30? Absolutely not. He's not that age anymore.
Okay, I'll tell you what, we'll put a pin in this. In a month from now, let's go back and visit Brandon Crawford, because I'm going to be interested in this. I'm not saying you're wrong, but I will be shocked if he was worth rostering, because Brandon Crawford, I always believe in, go look at his baseball card, and whatever he hit,
right,
his career is what he's going to hit.
What's the back of the baseball card say? Last guy I'll put in Doge ball, if you're really struggling with some starting pitching or looking for some value, some young guys. I think you jumped on this guy in one of our leagues this week, Cole Irvin. Of the Oakland Athletics. This is a guy who is a
couple of weeks now. I watched him pitch in a game, and he's got stuff that pops. And I think he's sustainable. Do I think he's like the next, Roger Clemens? No, but he plays out there in the AL West, and they don't have the most electric bats in the world. And that was kind of the reasoning for me. I picked him up last week because I knew he was going to go twice this week, and so. Right. I liked all 3 of his matchups, so that's essentially why I jumped on Cole Irvin.
Yeah, he was a touted prospect. He was a 5th round pick in the 2016 amateur draft by the Phillies. For whatever reason, they left him unprotected in Rule 5, and Oakland swooped in and grabbed him this past offseason. His ERA plus is 125. His field independent pitching, or his FIP, if you will, is 294. He struck out 34 batters in 35 innings. While only walking 5. So a guy with good control and some popping stuff in what is still, regardless what you want to think of that, horrible ballpark they play in Oakland, it's still a pitcher's ballpark. I mean, balls don't really fly out of there until later in the summer. So early in the year, you're going to get some good stats on him. If he's available in your leagues, go grab him now. So that's Doge ball for this week. And then we need to jump into DFS so we can cut and run and keep it nice and clean.
He was released by Philly. If you go back and look at his stats, the one stat that jumps out at you from last year, not just his whip being high and his ERA just being ridiculous, his batting average against Sean was 524. Holy crap.
It's pretty
high.
Before
he was 278. So I'm with you. I'm like, I don't know if I would have just given up on the kid, but he might be a guy that you could sell high to someone who's drooling over what he's going to do over the next, couple of starts, and then, dump him. All right. Where are we going with DFS today?
So I'm just going to give 3 names, and then if you want to reply with any, we'll do that as well. The first one I'm going to give, he's just really undervalued. I know he hasn't hit very well so far this year, but a household name, Alex Bregman of the Houston Astros, going up against Steven Matz today. That is in Minute Maid Park. He is only 4,600 on DraftKings. Now, Alex hasn't gotten off to a great start this year, but you and I have watched a lot of Steven Matz over the years with the Mets. He is now currently in Toronto. This is a guy who lives in the zone. And if he is not getting you to swing at his changeup and his curveballs out of the zone, he has to throw what is really a glorified batting practice fastball that he calls a sinker down the middle of the plate. And this dude is prone to giving up 10 and having the Charlie Morton at any point in time. that day could be today. So Alex Bregman at 4,600, huge value for me at third base. Depending on what kind of DraftKings contest you're playing in, you might find other positions where he is. Pitchers are really
one that I like. Carlos Martinez has pitched pretty well the last couple of outings. I know he was scary, so it is a big. I don't know if I want to do this or not, but I'll tell you this: he's only 6,900 today, and he's at home against that terrible Colorado offense. If there's a time to jump on Carlos Martinez, not just in a streaming in your regular season, but also on DFS, I really like him. I say that with my best Michael Scott impression of, I'm gonna click it, and I'm just gonna, let's hope for the best kind of thing, because I just don't think he's sustainable. I watch him pitch a lot, and I think he's been fortunate, but Colorado sucks. I think, and I'll tell you what, have you watched this kid Williams pitch for the Cubs?
Trevor Williams has been in the league for years. He was a Pittsburgh Pirate. Gives up tons.
Right, but have you watched him pitch this year for the Cubs?
Yeah, I have. Yeah.
So he changed a few things in his game. He's got a really favorable matchup in Chicago. Not only is he only 6,300, but he's at home against the Pittsburgh Pirates, and the high today is supposed to be 48 degrees, which means ball is probably not going to be flying out. It's probably going to be a low-scoring ball game. So those are my two pitchers that I like today.
Okay, I'll give one last one, and then I know we kind of got to run. If you're, you can spend 10,700 on Christian Javier. That's a good doing. Okay. Dylan Bundy's 9,800. You can spend at the top of the market. A name at the bottom of the market in pitching that I really like is Daniel Lynch. This is one of Kansas City's most prized young prospects. His first outing was a little up and down. He was out of the zone a little too much. You could tell he was really geeked up. The fastball was hot. It was way up in the zone and high. But he's facing the White Sox today at home. The White Sox are having a really hard time hitting the ball and scoring runs. It's basically Tim Anderson, Jose Abreu, and not much else. Even Grandal's barely hitting $160. At $5,300, he's worth a real good flyer today because he's got the stuff. He's got a 4-pitch makeup. If he gets in the zone, and they've never seen him before, the White Sox have never seen this guy before. So, if they are swinging at his stuff out of the zone, this is a guy that could easily go 6, give up nothing, and strike out 10 because he has that kind of stuff. 22-year-old fireballer in his second start, first start at home. His first start was on the road in Cleveland, mixed results. He could be a real good value buy today. Like I said, $5,300 is not a lot to spend.
If I'm stacking today, I'm going to go ahead and beat that dead horse. I'm probably going to stack with the Cardinals. They're at home against Gonzalez. I like stacking a few of their players. And if you want to go out on a little bit more of a smaller limb, the Twins are at Detroit, and I would check the weather first, because if it's going to be really cold, then forget what I say. But Jose Arena's on the mound, and though he can be good, he can also be a little scary, and I think the Twins would be a good stack as well. There's actually some really good pitchers pitching today. That sound means it is time for your last payoff pitch of the day. So what do you want to leave us with?
Yeah, my last payoff pitch for the day is keep an eye on your advanced statistics, particularly hard hit rate and exit velocity. Those are always good indicators of guys who are likely to turn around. So baseballreference.com is where I get a lot of my information from. Do your research. You'll always turn out well. Thanks for tuning in. This was fun.
Yeah, we'll be here every Saturday morning. My payoff pitch for y'all would be, and this is for obviously year-long leagues, even if you're not picking up a player, always check your waiver wire. Check who the panickers are in your league. Get to know them and see what they have been doing. Because I'm going to give you an example. This week, I was able to pick up Jose Abreu in one of our leagues because this guy's just panicked, and he picked up Aguilar from the Marlins and dropped. I'm not saying you don't pick up Aguilar. He's a great, backup to an Abreu. But when Abreu catches fire, dude, what are you doing?
Dude,
And
what are you doing?
the same guy panicked and dropped Ohtani, the pitcher.
Oh God.
And I just feel like I think he gets this is a points league, and the short story of it is I think he gets discouraged because he only goes once a week. You're rarely ever going to see Ohtani go twice a week.
Right.
But he's getting strikeouts. He is walking a lot, which is a little concerning. But to me, he's worth holding on to for at least the next month to see where Ohtani can go with pitching. Man, I'm hoping something happens to his. Well, I don't know how he could not hit but could still pitch. So I'm gonna give up on that one. I want something to happen to his left elbow to where he can't hit but he can still throw, so he can just focus because I don't have him as a hitter. That's my payoff pitch. All right, brother, great job. We'll see you next Saturday morning, 10 a.m. Eastern, here on YouTube Live, and of course you can catch us during the week on the Armchair Quarterbacks Live. Great show, and we will see y'all on the flip side.
Enjoy the baseball, everybody.
If you can make a hit in a ball game, you can make a hit with me.